Cool. All right.
Let me put the phone away, because if I see that, even if I notice it buzzing, I'll get distracted, and I don't want to do that.
Dude, 100%, man. It's brutal. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to the 69th episode of the Hashtag Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bauer. Today, we have Jamil Damji with Key Glee with us. How you doing,
Hello.
bro?
I'm fantastic. How are you today, brother?
Man, I'm just living. I'm doing great. A little bit about Jamil here. He is also known to some as the Godfather of Wholesaling, as he broke into real estate shortly after moving from LA, where he was a comedian. But you're definitely going to talk about that.
Yes, sir.
Starting as a solopreneur, Jamil now works with his sister, Rahima.
Correct.
I might have butchered that, but was that right?
You were bang on.
All right. And two friends, Hunter and Josiah, where they run Key Glee, a 30-plus employee real estate wholesaling company / empire. Key Glee is an expert in new market rollouts, currently in 7 markets, and looking to expand to at least 6 more before the end of the year. Not only that, but Key Glee is wholesaling between 70 to 80 houses a month, and that number's continuing to grow. So we're going to ask him how I got into
it's a little low on there, but that's cool. That's good. No, 70 to 80 is honest, so that's fine.
Dude, that's an impressive number. I mean, in all reality, that is an absolutely stunning number. Before we jump into that, though, I want to give the listeners a little bit more about your background, because there's a lot more that goes into that. I've known you for several years now. We have a lot of mutual connections, but give the listeners more about who you are.
Awesome. So a little bit about me. I was born in the United States in Los Angeles, and as a child moved to Canada. My family felt they would be able to hack it a little bit better, a little north. And so I actually was raised in Calgary, Alberta. It's a little, it's an oil town in Western Canada. Super friendly, just all of the stereotypes that you know of Canadians is most of them are true. I grew up in that environment. I loved it. I actually got involved in real estate while I was in Canada. So my sister and I were in business together out there. We were in the business of condo conversions. We had a rapid rise and an even more rapid fall when the financial crisis hit. And so, through all of that, it really took me to a place where I had to be able to pivot. And part of that pivot was, oddly enough, comedy.
That is kind of an odd pivot, but...
Yes, sir.
So this was Canada. This was during the rise. Was this 06? I mean, is it the same there as it is in the U.S.?
Yeah, so we felt it in Canada about, I'd say, well, where I lived in Calgary, Alberta, because it had some insulation due to oil. But we felt it actually start to really hit about 6 months after, after that had died out. So after you guys felt it here, we started to feel it about 6 months after that.
Okay. And then, I mean, what happened at that point? Did you lose your portfolio?
Yeah, we lost a portfolio. So we were in the middle of about 4 condo conversions at the time, which we were heavily leveraged to do. I'd actually asked my parents to co-sign on our construction loans. And so it was a fantastically difficult period. I lost my home, the home that my sister and I had purchased for our parents. We lost that as well. We lost our vehicles, everything and anything. And I think at that time I was really young, and I really didn't know how to correctly defend myself in an action like that. I did the natural thing, which was to kind of duck my head in the sand, for me at the time at least. And that didn't fare out well, as I'm sure you can imagine it doesn't ever. And so, we just lost everything. My mom, my dad, my sister, myself, my niece, our dog and cat, we all ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment living together. And, to be honest, some of the best days of my life were in that 2-bedroom apartment. So a lot of fun and a lot of connecting and bonding happened in the hard times. So, life is life.
Right, man. I tell you what, that is ever so true, right? Just those hard times in your life are what shape you and change you as a person, and probably got you to where you're at now.
Correct.
Right. all too often do I hear about people that have to lose everything before they learn. And that's not the only way that you can go, but you know, I mean, it happens to a lot of people.
Well, you know, the thing that I think I've learned that I've truly, I've tried to really integrate this into my life is that everything good comes out of shit, right? And so even our food, right? Even our food, without it being in manure, it's not fertilized right, so that we don't get the crops that we want. And so when you're in those hard times and everything around you looks kind of desperate, first of all, take an inventory of the people around you, right? Because you're in the shit, and the people that are in it with you, those are your people. That's your tribe. Those are the ones that are your ride or die. These are the ones that truly care for you. And you'll see that there's going to be very few, and you might be standing in the shit alone, right? And that's okay too. But for me, I was in it with my whole family was there with me. No one blamed me. No one blamed my sister. We just had to find a way to continue life. And, you know, a lot of that, a lot of the positive family relationships and a lot of the positivity that I took from being in that state, I think I've been able to weave into our business the second time around. So, you know, and all in all, it was probably the most positive negative experience I've ever had.
Yeah, I would 100% agree to that. And God, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head right there. All the good things come out of shit. And this goes across the board. And from personal relationships to business relationships to, you know, failures, failing forward. And it's apparent that you fell very much forward from that experience, right?
I agree. Yes.
So that was 2000.
So 2009-ish was, you know, we were a little bit ahead of that. So 2009 is when, you know, we had gone from all to nothing. And, you know, oddly enough, in the meantime, because I've always considered myself a communicator, and I love jokes. I mean, you know, it's fun. It's interesting that's part of my character, but I like to play. I like to be playful in the office. I like to be playful with my family. I like to be playful in you know, the job itself. And so I had been flirting with comedy writing, and luckily connected with some individuals who had you know, kind of paved their way, and they were kind enough to give me the to give me the confidence to really embark on pivoting into a different career for a time where I had to kind of lick my wounds and really find the humor in it all, right? I think poetically, looking back at it, it's awesome that that's where I went, because I was in such despair that I couldn't find anything funny anymore. I couldn't find anything, you know, nothing really at that like early days was making me smile. And then all of a sudden I'm thrust into this world of comedy, and everything is making me smile.
So it's such an interesting dynamic to change too, but probably one that, like you just said, was best for you at that time.
Yeah.
How can you tell the listeners out there that may or may not be in a funk in their business? Maybe they're really trying to get, you know, accomplish something, or maybe they just lost everything. I know this is a market where that probably is rare at this point in time, but how do people get out of that? How did you do that?
So, very good question. I mean, I started by abusing myself. So you know, I think you're quick to grab what's around you. And for me, you know, I'm in this Los Angeles kind of lifestyle. And so, you know, you're doing comedy nightly in the clubs, and there's always a bar. And so you know, I drank a little bit, and but that wasn't healthy. And I very, very quickly learned that that wasn't going to be the key. Honestly, I think you know, hindsight is huge. Being able to look back at things and really see how like synchronicity is apparent all the time in life. Like even when you're in the worst of times, you are in your marination, and meditation has really been a key factor for me, just to keep my spirits, my mindset. I mean, I truly believe that everything your mind can create visually, where you truly, truly, truly can feel it and see it and accept that it happens or is happening for you, can be real. And so I take that very seriously. It's a practice that, that's a non-negotiable for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I will meditate the way I will have to use the restroom. It's just non-negotiable.
Yep. I can tell you what, man, probably 4 years ago, what is this, 2019, so 4 years ago is when I started the practice of meditation as well, every single day.
Awesome.
In my morning. That is part of my morning routine, and that is a non-negotiable. And you're absolutely correct. I think if you can think it, you can conceive it, that's what it is. Every great thing that's ever happened in the world first started here, started in the mind, right? And then it was conceived from there. So that's brilliant. We could talk about that for a long time. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand. They think, how boring it is just sit there with your eyes closed. And that's not the case.
Yeah. It doesn't begin there, right? It can begin from an active place. I think, I've gone to stillness now as a part of how I find enjoyment and really to get inspired. But meditation doesn't need to be this quieting of the mind, this following of the breath, because it takes concentration. It can be guided visualizations. Let's create mentally what we want out of life and spend years doing that. I mean, there's nothing that says that you have to do it this way or that way. I think that get explorational with it, make it personal. What do you need today? What part of Maslow's triangle are you living in? Are you trying to fulfill your basic needs? Are you trying to find find a mate, shelter, food? Okay, now are you trying to look for some belonging? Are you looking for a sense of like a tribe? Do you, if that's covered, then are you trying to actualize? If are you trying to actualize and you're at the top of the pyramid, and then maybe it's right now that's what you need is silence. But if you're in that state where you're still trying to find your place in this world, don't let anybody tell you how you should do it, right? What feels good? What feels good when you think about it? Like what makes you happy? What about the feelings of joy, inspiration, and gratitude deep in your soul? And focus on those and then remove the outcome, right? Because if you can focus on what makes you happy and brings those feelings of joy out, then you're in that state. Then mentally remove that outcome and sit in that space of gratitude or joy or inspiration and just watch because that's when you're in potential, right? That's when you can make things happen.
No, man, hands down. Do you also journal? Are you a journaling guy?
So I'll be straight up with you, man. Like I'd like to. I'm so worried about somebody finding it that that's my real truth. Like, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. Like, so what? What will I write in there that'll be so terrible? Or will it just be corny? I don't know. A part of me is like, okay, I'll write it, but then where do I have it so that I can remember to do it? And then if it's out there, then is my 13-year-old daughter going to take snaps of it and put it on the internet? Like I probably, so I haven't really got there to the journaling part, but I'm working on it.
I have a tip for you, and then we'll kind of move back into the real estate side. There's a book that you can get on Amazon. Matter of fact, maybe I'll send you one. How about that? I'll send you one. It's the 5-minute journal. Yep. It takes 5 minutes to get it done. It is a daily practice. You do it in the morning, you do it at night, and it's guided. And Awesome. It's for people that have no time, don't know what to write, exactly what you're struggling with, because that's everybody, right? I mean, Nobody likes to do that. I've been doing this now for 2 weeks.
Awesome.
And
thanks for sharing.
I'm starting to see a change. I'm starting to see the impact of it. And dude, I got to be honest, it's weird. For me, I'm not great at it. I just have heard these buzzwords from people that are, in places I want to go, and they say that journaling is very important.
Right.
So
awesome. Please, I'll be watching the mail, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So back into the real estate. You didn't go from doing, losing it all to now you're doing 80 deals a month. Let's go down that path. What happened?
So an interesting thing happened. So I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm still flirting with real estate because, I'm getting access to funds again. And I really don't know what to do with it. If I don't put them, I know that if I don't put them somewhere, I'm going to buy something dumb, right? Or I'm going to do something that's not going to further my life. And so I start looking back into real estate in Phoenix because, the market had fallen so bad out here that you could buy for 25 grand, you could buy a 2005 built 3-story with an elevator with granite countertops and hardwood floor and, an espresso kitchen at the time. All this was like awesome, right? And I could buy one of those condos in like the Melrose Historic District, which is, as you know, like poppin'. And I could pay $25,000 for that and rent it out for like $800. So I'm thinking $25,000 to get $800 in cash flow. That's a win, right? And so my sister and I start placing funds. We start buying condos just to, make ourselves some extra cash flow. And then we meet an agent who starts showing us, some short sales and some distressed property. And we start contracting. But, again, we're kind of like, okay, well, maybe we'll buy it. Maybe we won't. We're not sure what the bank will come back at. And dude, it was the funniest thing. Like the time came, a short sale was about to come to fruit. And I didn't want to do the fix and flip. I was okay to close it, but I wanted to just resell it. And so I wrote an ad on Craigslist, and I described the 2 properties. This is like such bootstrap wholesaling because I didn't even know what wholesaling was. I stumbled across a transaction a lot like that in Canada. But even at that time, I was like, what just happened there? How neat was that? The quick flip idea, right? And so I write this ad. I get a call from a gentleman by the name of Tim Wynn, who is a principal in True Freedom Achievers here in Phoenix, Arizona. Him and Mike Lima, great people. Tim said very quickly, I'll take both of those properties that you've just advertised. And I had marked it up like $20,000. So after closing costs, I was going to net like $18,000. And I was just shocked at how easy that was, right? Like that morning at 9 a.m., I was like, I don't really want to go out to Phoenix and do a fix and flip. It's 110 degrees out there. I'd rather be in LA. I might as well just try these on Facebook and on Craigslist and see what happens. And like by noon, I made, what was going to be $18,000 apparently, right? And so he opens escrow, the deals close, and I'm supposed to come get my money. And he said, why don't you do this? Why don't you take a week off of telling jokes and hang out with me? I'll drive you around town and I'll show you everything that we have going on out here. And you might just feel like it's something that you want to do more of. And I thought, hey, what do I have to lose? So I did. And man, the guy opened my eyes. Like he was moving and shaking. Him and his partner at the time were selling all kinds of houses and making, money hand over fist. And I wanted in. I very quickly realized that I love doing deals. I love doing deals way more than I like cracking jokes. I need to get back in the action. Now I just got to convince my fiance, who I had sold on living in Los Angeles, that we want to live in Phoenix now. And so I did that. And on my birthday, which is December 12th. So on 12/12/12, I was in a U-Haul driving from Los Angeles to Phoenix on a Hope certificate, truly, and it changed my life.
Man, that's super exciting. That was actually the time that I moved to Phoenix. Matter of fact, I was here December of 2011. So, basically a year before that.
Yeah, a year right before. Yeah.
So, and man, you're right. What you just explained is the power of what wholesaling is. And it's a win-win across the board for the seller, for the investor, and for you in the middle, right? And so all the listeners out there listening to this, a lot of them are going to know what wholesaling is, but this is why it's a beautiful thing. But you don't go from, once again, you decide that you want to do this, you meet a great mentor, somebody that shows you the path, and then what?
And then, so I move out here and all of a sudden it's hard, right? It was super easy to get me to Phoenix. And then when I get here, it's like, oh my God, this is hard. But the 20,000 sitting in my living room, writing ads on ad on Craigslist is not what I'm seeing happening now. So I get in here, I get into the reality, and that's okay. I just realized I gotta do a bunch of work, and so that's what I do. I start getting to it. I start knocking on doors. At that time, the goal was to connect to the agents controlling the distressed property. Right. That's what I saw as my ticket into really being able to like transact with a decent volume. That is a lot harder than it sounds, right? And so, but I do work my way into a few relationships that ended up being key, and I still have them today. And so what I was doing was just like finding deals. You know, I would scour the MLS, I would scour Zillow, I would scour the FSBO sites. I was on ZBuyer. Nobody do that. Nobody use it. I apologize, ZBuyer, if you're listening, but unless you guys have drastically changed your platform, don't do it. But I tried a bunch of different things, and you know, I was scraping out a little bit of a decent return, and then you know, just continuing to try. 2013, 14, 15, I met some key clients that really were just hungry for deals, and a couple of people individually who were really had connections with the banks and that were just handing me potential properties to flip. And so I started to generate some good volume. I linked up with Chris Iman, who was very good at the time of helping me sell some of these deals. And so, you know, him and I had a great run there. And then in that period, I stumbled across Josiah and Hunter and their systems. And, you know, these two guys, when we first got together, you know, I'm 40 years old, right? Full disclosure, you know, my Hunter's 22, Josiah is 25. So I'm like grandpa to these two guys. And, you know, I came in with a little bit of that chip on my shoulder, like I know better or I know more. And there's nothing worse than that and being, you know, than having that attitude and being wrong. Because these two guys, they really showed me how being systemized and really taking into consideration automating your business, it will explode your capacity to do business. So like our first month that Key Glee was around was December of 2000 and what would it be? 2015, 2016, December 2016. We did 4 deals. So, you know, nothing special, right? It was pretty small. I mean, some people will be listening and say 4 deals, that's great. But, you know, we rented an office. There was 4 partners, not enough for any of us to be excited. And we really dialed in some systems, and then very quickly that 7 became, you know, 30. And then it grew, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And we added more staff. And, you know, now we're at a point where 60 is a bad month, you know, 80, 85, that's our average on typical.
So 80 or 85 deals in a month. For all the listeners out there, that's got to blow a lot of them away. And you're wholesaling all of these to end users. You're not taking them down, right?
Correct.
It's a wholesale basis. And is this spread across how many states? Is that Arizona? Is that everywhere put together?
So that volume only includes Arizona and Florida. And so the bulk of our volume, I'd say like, you know, an average of 60 deals a month are Phoenix and Tucson. And then about 15 of them to 20 are Florida. So Tampa and Orlando specifically, and Jacksonville.
So that is a ridiculous amount of volume, right? But let's talk about what got you out of your head to get to that point, because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with trying to get out of their own head.
Yeah.
I know a couple of them very, 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 very well.
What got me out of my head was having to like lay down my pride, right? Having to lay down the I know everything, all of the survival things, the things that my mind, the subconscious programs that I've had through evolution that want to keep me safe, that want to protect my status, that want to, you know, have me be the beneficiary of everything that I do. You know, that attitude of, you know, me, and everybody else needs to go away, and everybody is going to try to like take from me, and I can't trust, and you know, that negativity is shit. And what I learned is that all it is a change of perspective, right? A recontextualization of what you're in. And so you can see negative things, but you know what's the beauty of something like, okay, let me give you like an etheric example. we don't know what joy is unless you know what pain is, right? Otherwise, it's all joy, right? You see birds flying around out there. Do you think they know the difference between joy and pain? No, they're birds. They're happy. They're birds all the time. They're joyful birds all the time until a cat kills them and they're gone, right? And so that's like what we don't have as humans, because we're conscious, right? And when we have consciousness, that means that we know that there's an opposite. There's the other side. And so you can get all those survival tools that were great when we were living in the jungle, or when we were living, in packs, and we had to, it was like fight or flight all the time. You could be killed by your tribe or your enemy or an animal, all those things were real, and they could happen now, right? All of our programs, they were really great for surviving that. But we've evolved past that, right? And so what we have to do is to get out of the instincts that want to just keep us alive and in some shelter, because you know what, man, that subconscious programming doesn't give a shit about your dreams, doesn't give a shit that you want to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't give a shit that you want your children to have a legacy. And all it cares about is that you've got food, shelter, potentially a mate. But even that, it's like, fuck it, she might just take all your stuff, and that's not safe either. So
also a threat, right?
Also a threat. So I think getting past that, just getting over the fact that this world is not out here to fuck you. You are the architect of your life. Like, live by design. Brad Pickett, he's a mutual friend I know, and he is somebody that I think his hashtag is designer lifestyle. I love that. The guy has the most designer lifestyle ever. Every time I look at Facebook, he's on a boat with a beautiful woman, or meditating somewhere, just doing some awesome stuff. And I'll tell you one thing, his finances are not suffering for it. So he's got to figure it out. He's designed his life to match his expectations and to be what he needs it to be. And so, for me, I think that if I can just get myself to be mentally, past what I need to just survive, then, and I think for the listeners, if they can get themselves out of their heads, out of survival mode and into what is it that makes them feel uncomfortable, and then sit in that, that's powerful shit.
So, I think that's a really important piece, is like, one, design your life or live a life by design, right? Which is very, very popular, but also living in being uncomfortable.
Yep.
Right. So let's talk about that for just a quick minute for the listeners out there. Everybody struggles. Everybody struggles.
I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling with, business is great. My wife and my life and my personal, my family life is awesome. I am struggling with purpose, right? Yeah, I've got this fantastic company and I love it so much and I love what I do every day. But is the purpose of my life to be a deal junkie?
Right.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And so I'm struggling to find deeper meaning. And that's my new pain. That's the new place of uncomfort. That's where I'm having to really dive into my bullshit. And then hopefully I'll come out the other side.
Dude, that is absolutely huge. Purpose is, I'm guessing you're a big Tony Robbins guy, or you've read about him,
I'm not. And I should probably give him more, there's a reason why he's so loved and why he does so well. I've listened to some of it to me, and I haven't gone deep into anything new, but it felt that, maybe when I was just listening, it wasn't the right time. Like, I don't want to make any excuses or stories up here. That there's probably some fantastic stuff there that I got to revisit. So, but yeah, right now I've been diving real deep into, Yogananda. If you don't know who that is, he wrote the autobiography of a yogi. I've been diving into some very esoteric Christian philosophies, some esoteric Islamic philosophies, some esoteric Judaic philosophies. I'm really, I don't prescribe to say to myself that I'm going to limit my sense of knowledge or my understanding from one faith to the other. I'm trying to learn, right? I'm seeking. I'm not here to swallow dogma.
Yeah, man, you're just taking information from all different pieces and then organizing them in your own head to determine your own outcome of whatever that might look like.
Absolutely.
And your own purpose. And that's huge. I think that's a really big takeaway for people out there. So thank you for sharing that. But what's going to happen in 5 years from now for you, for Key Glee? What is next? You guys have amassed this massive business. What is, so what? Now what?
So, the goals are for the foreseeable future to really roll out our new markets. So we'll be in Texas soon, Houston and Dallas as the flagships, and then Salt Lake City and Utah. So we've already rolled out Atlanta. Things are popping over there. We've got deals under contract. We're selling houses. Things are great. So we really want to focus on successful market rollouts. My two partners, Josiah and Hunter, they would love to be in, at least 16 markets within in a very short amount of time. And so I think that's next. And if once that's successfully completed, maybe I'll have found my purpose. I don't know. I'm doing it. I'm doing it simultaneously, right? It's so funny because I talk to guys that are, I think that Josiah and myself are working on his astro flipping coaching program, and so I talk to guys that are getting into wholesaling on a newbie level or a mid level range, and I see so many who gain their life perspective or how they define themselves, their life definition based off if I could just sell more houses, right? Or if I could just do more deals. And I think that's an okay place to be. To start, right? But that has to evolve, right? I cannot be 50 years old living my life to do more deals.
Right. There has to be a deeper purpose behind that. Absolutely. I was actually that conversation this morning with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that's so that's probably a thing for you too. We're having it again right now. And so I think that's a natural thing though, when you start to really do well and you start realizing that material things like buying another car is not going to make me happy. Living in a better house is not going to make me happy. I can pay all my bills. I am outside of survival, right? I hopefully will never have to worry about money again. That's where I am. So there's so many better things to worry about.
Yeah. How do you have an impact?
Right.
How do you have an impact? And I think that's huge. And your purpose and impact kind of go together, I think. And it's good to hear that you're exploring those options and you're gathering information, fact finding to really determine what that might be. I mean, I love that because I think it's so true. We have one shot on this earth and we have one, we can do all that we can as long as it's on purpose.
For sure. Right? Sure. And I know some people who say that you don't have one shot at this life. There's some folks out there who believe you're doing it thousands of times until you get it right. I don't know what I think of that. I haven't really prescribed to the reincarnation idea, but hey, look, if you fucked it up, that's a great place to live in, right? But the other part is what if you do it really well and you're like, I don't have the energy to do this twice.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, you could say that you just, you act like you only live one time. And then if you just do everything to the best of your ability, you can never look back with regret. Right.
Yep.
That's a huge piece.
100%.
So, man, we have shared a ton of information today. I appreciate you being here. I want to end this call off with 5 questions. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. All right. What is your hashtag and best this tip? You can give our listeners one to keep them moving forward.
And try and talk to as many people as you possibly can that are doing it. You'd be surprised at how much people will share with you when they're not just trying to survive anymore. So I'd say be very mindful of who you've got around you and who you're talking to and try to elevate that conversation.
You're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm sure you've heard that before, right?
Yes.
Kind of go down that whole same path. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
What has been an impactful book? We're readers. I'm sure that you are, right? So what has there been one that's really just changed your life?
I think one right now that I have to say really affecting me is The Autobiography of a Yogi. I talked about it before. I actually have made it a point to read it yearly, and every time I read it, it's different. And so I would say the autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. That's a lot of words, but if you can get them into your Google, order that and change your life.
Man, thank you for sharing. I've never even heard of that book, so I'm actually excited to buy it. So thank you for sharing that.
Amazing. Hey, Scott, I'll send it to you.
Hey, there we go. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, cool. What about mentors, coaches? I know we've had some similar ones. Who has given you the best advice that's really moved you forward?
The best advice, my 25-year-old partner, Josiah, he is an old soul, man. That guy he's always got a positive, enlightened viewpoint on just things going on around us in life and in work in general. So he's been a great one. There's an author. His name is Matthew Ferry. If anyone doesn't know him, he wrote a book called Quiet Mind, Epic Life. That also I do some coaching with him personally, just on my mindset work. And so, those two have been very influential to me.
And that's my mom. You just shared with me, right? I have not, I think I bought it, but I haven't listened to it yet. So I'm excited.
It's good. Get in it.
I love it. Not to get off, I'm happy that you shared that one, but I just got done reading this very short book called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan.
Yep.
Which is have you read that? Do you know what that is?
No, The Gap and the Gain?
The Gap and the Gain. Yep. It'll take you 3 hours to read the whole thing, if that. Awesome. Yeah, very short. Just kind of talks about how as entrepreneurs we're always either in the gap or the gain, and the only way to really look at the progress you've made is to look back, not look forward, because your ideals are always out there, just like the horizon. You can never get to the horizon. It's always out there, right? So anyways, I encourage everybody to read both those books. Thank you for sharing.
For sure.
How do you like to give back? You've already touched on a couple things, but what's some big ways you like to give back?
So I am very quiet about how I give, but I'll share a little bit of it. I'm not one of the guys you'll see on my Instagram, taking pictures with homeless people and showing that I'm giving, because I'm not into that. But I do that. I actually I put cash. I carry cash around with me so that I can connect with people that I see that are out, down on their luck, and I talk to them. I don't just throw money out the window and be like, hey, here you go. I'll stop my car and I'll, something has compelled me to want to just talk to you, and I'll do that. I'll have a conversation with people, and you'll be surprised at just how sharing and how open folks can be. And look, they could be lying, they could not. I'm not going to judge. Who am I to judge? But I think that for me, I've had the most impact by doing that. I've been a part of charities in the past, and I've just seen how that always is an organization, and it's always like you're so far removed from the impact that, to me, it's just not what I want to do. So I've had to step back from a lot of that. Now it's just like hand-to-hand, eye-to-eye connection and giving on a more personal level. I get, and look, giving doesn't need to be selfless. Giving can be selfish. There's nothing wrong with that. But I gain a lot from it. I gain a lot personally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally when I give. And I think that it's okay to receive that.
Absolutely. That's huge. That is massive. And, I think there's a lot of different ways you can give back. So I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for sharing that. I know you don't like to. So how can the listeners reach you? They want to find out more about Key Glee, about how they can get connected to you. Where can they go?
Yeah. My Instagram, I love Instagram. Yeah. It's at J Damji. So at JDAMJI, at J Damji on Instagram, or at Key Glee, at KEYGLEE. DM me, send me a message. I'm really responsive, to be truthful. I get people reach out to me all the time, and some of them have never done a deal. Some of them just found some of the things I said to be inspiring, or I've had a couple of guys be like, there's no effing way you're doing that many deals. I accept it all. If you're mad at me, because of, you know, what your perception of what our volume is and your ideas of what's real and not real, tell me you're mad at me. I don't care. I'd love to hear about it. If you are wanting some inspiration, or if you want some help, or if you want a hand to try to see what you should do next, reach out. I love talking to everybody and anybody. I love where you are in your life right now, whether that be a good place or bad place.
Dude, that's huge, man. You have shared so much information with us today about from going, you know, from the bottom of the barrel in Canada, making your move from LA to here in Phoenix, you know, the run up to getting to 60, 80 deals plus a month. And really the purpose behind all of that. You know, you've talked about purpose on this call, and I think that you have a lot more purpose. You maybe just don't see it yet. You haven't had the ability to see it, but you know, you are making an impact, and that's super important. I appreciate you sharing all that today.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure, man. I'm a big fan of you. I'm a big fan of this podcast, and I love what you're doing with it. And I'm honored that you asked me to be on it.
I appreciate it, man. We will talk to you real soon.
All right, brother.
All right, John. See you, man.